is Angela, and welcome to my channel, Angie the ENTJ. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and click on the notifications bell so that you'll know whenever I upload any new content. I want to be careful about what I'm about to say here, so disclaimer. The reason why is because all of us, we've been tricked, fooled, hoodwinked, and bamboozled by the patriarchy globally. When I say all of us, I'm saying women and men alike. So I'm about to share something that is very sensitive, and some of you may find it to be just highly coincidental, and that's fine. And I will always add that I am never, ever attempting to proselytize or get people to believe in what I do or to live the way that I do. The sole purpose that I have in sharing my points of view is nothing more than to show you a different angle on a situation at hand, and that's only if you'd like to hear it. Okay? So everyone is free to do as they wish, believe what they like or whatever, or even to disagree with me, and I welcome challenges. However, the only thing I ask is, when it comes to the challenges, just make sure you're backing up your observations with empirical data if you're going to challenge me. That's all I ask. So, moving along. I uploaded a video where in it I performed a small ritual in the Mojave Desert in California, asking for the energy of Sekhmet to bring her healing powers to us all. It was during the time of a waxing moon. That's when the moon is getting full. And Sekhmet is a lion-headed goddess. And a lion is a big feline or a big cat.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are...
However, nearly a month prior to that ritual that I performed, I was in Miami, South Beach, Miami, Florida. And it was also during a time of a waxing and nearly full moon where I did an offering, release into the ocean, and I also commented about the rising of the dark feminine. I did upload a video on it, but I had numerous other short videos that I had not edited or uploaded, and one of them is that it just so happened to be that I was walking around speaking about the dark feminine, and lo and behold, one of the things that I did was to grab a coconut.
My mother she would give us a hard time sometimes, and she would say to us, I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
I even took it back to the place with me. So about a week ago on a Sunday evening during the time of a full moon, that was July 21st, 2024, Joe Biden drops out of the presidential race. In my culture, Sunday is associated with Heru or Horus. This is the energy of a young man who is in his prime. It is also the energy that is associated with rulership, especially like the roles of kings in a nation, managers in a corporation, and so forth. So from my angle, it is not a coincidence that Kamala Harris is now running for the presidency. This is because Sekhmet's energy, which is also identified as Kali in India's Hindu spirituality, it is the type of energy that turns things on its head. It turns a situation upside down and on its head. Sekhmet's energy can be very violent and rash and merciless. However, that was not what I was seeking that day when I put my finger to the ground in the Mojave Desert. I was only seeking justice and for things to be fair and equitable for everyone. I don't do juju. I don't need to do juju or the types of rituals that bring harm to others. Prior to these rituals, the overturning of Roe versus Wade happened on a Friday, which is associated with the feminine energy, particularly of young women, of being social, delightful, joyful, and festive, and everything that is beautiful and pleasant. You know, it deals with art and music and theater. All of the things that people would normally go out and do on a date. The feminine energy of Heteru or Freya or Lakshmi or Oshun. See, they overturned Roe versus Wade on a Friday during a waxing moon on top of it. That's when they decided to do that. In my world, that was the equivalent of spitting at the sky. You can attempt to do so, but it's going to come back on you. All of us who are in the esoteric, when we saw that happen, we also began seeing the immediate signs that it was not about to age well. From the oracle readings that I performed that yielded many responses, including hexagram number 24 that appears like someone who is seated with their legs crossed. So in my world, that was the symbolism of the woman. And in other esoteric influences, such as the Druids and the Wiccans, they were seeing crows circling counterclockwise. So here we are. It has come to pass. The decline in dating, the decline in that Heteru energy, and marriage, mating, and procreating. Then the setting off of the West 4B movement, that hexagram number 24. I did a video on that, where the women have simply sworn off all men. And also an increased number of single women who are not in the West 4B movement. They've gone what's called boy sober. Hashtag boy sober. So there is a lot that needs to happen within the U.S. and the world in general. The most immediate thing that needs to happen is the implementation of the Nordic model within the United States of America. It is called the Nordic model, but it was originally our own ideas to assist U.S. citizens into having a proper standard of living and providing opportunities for advancement that are taxpayer funded. This is not communism for those who may be thinking that way. The Nordic nations are not governed by communism. The last remaining communist nations are China, Cuba, Laos, Vietnam, and North Korea. All but one, Cuba, are located in Asia. The communist nations, that is. The Nordic nations are located in far North Europe. So the Nordic model is far removed from socialism or communism, and the citizens of the Nordic and Scandinavian nations are unwilling to become socialists. So for those who may be new to my content and hearing about the Nordic model for the first time, rest assured that it has nothing to do with communism. The reason why I think that it is the way to go beyond the data showing its successes within those nations, how the people in the Nordic nations generally are more educated, more wealthier, healthier, they live longer, they have more personal time, more family time, more free time, and overall are more happier than those of us over here in the United States, is because we over here are using our taxpayer funds on weapons and not enough on our people. We do need the weapons because there will always be haters. Okay. However, we need those funds to stabilize the population, to update the infrastructure, to further boost technology, to boost research, especially medical research, and to provide opportunities for people to enjoy a higher quality of life. I travel this nation frequently. I have been to and through all of the major cities, small towns, and I have seen the reservations too. That is for all the 48 contiguous states. I haven't been to Hawaii or Alaska yet. I have seen the rundown trailer homes in places where the nearest grocery store and gas station are at least half an hour's drive away from the residents. There are plenty of dollar stores and convenience stores popping up in rural areas nowadays. I know the hood when I see it, okay? So we're seeing that corner store and dollar store dynamic popping up more and more in the rural areas. Meanwhile, they don't have Walmarts or major chain grocery stores. And in the urban areas especially, there is the issue of affordable housing beyond the food deserts there too. People are working 2 jobs and doing DoorDash, Lyft, and Uber Eats, and they're still living in their car, especially in places like California, where the temperatures can hit triple digits during the summer months. We need to have a basic standard of living within the U.S. the way that the Nordic and Scandinavian countries have for their citizens within their nations. And it should not be a situation where one has to be poor enough to qualify. Everyone should have access to it. People can argue that it will cause the population to become lazy and not work. I'm sure that it will happen for some individuals. They will get the benefits and live off of them until their last breath. However, one can look within Finland, Norway, Iceland, Sweden, the Faroe Islands, Switzerland, Denmark, Greenland to see what percentage of the population are going to be the lazy bums who just want to sit around and collect the benefits versus those who, even with access to those same benefits, are becoming more educated, becoming more skilled, generating more income, and the more income that's generated, that means that leads to more taxes to fund those benefits. You can see how they're using their paid parental leave to invest time into the physical and emotional security of their and well-being of their families. Meanwhile, the few individuals who are just there milking the system, guess what's happening to them? You can see that too. They are becoming socially isolated. You know why? Because if they do not show ambition, people don't want to be around them. No one likes being around lazy bums. So guess what it also does? It motivates the lazy bums to become better people because they do not like being socially isolated. And because the overall population has access to free or very affordable education, many of the people are skilled on seeing the psychological and sociological red flags of these individuals. Is everything perfect within the Scandinavian or the Nordic nations with the Nordic model? Absolutely not. However, they have it figured out and are doing quite a bit better over there than we are over here. So I did what I call a mini reading, and that's when I just consult one oracle, the I Ching in particular, about the topic of the Nordic model in the US, and it gave 2 hexagrams as a response. The first one being hexagram number 45, which is titled Kui, or in other words, it's known as the gathering. And this is a hexagram which talks about a gathering of people and how to deal with or govern a group of diverse people. And it provided 2 stress lines. The first line at the bottom was stress, and it advises on how to deal with a bunch of people who will have an outcry. So basically what it's saying is implementing the Nordic model in the US will lead to an outcry amongst the people. However, once more and more people begin to benefit from it, they will begin to embrace it and enjoy it. So the next, or the second of the stress lines, the next stress line is actually at the top of the hexagram, line number 6. And this talks about people moaning and sighing. So what it's saying is that there's going to be a lot of complaining, especially in the beginning, but it will ultimately lead to the unity of the nation. Then, because of the stress lines, this is where the second hexagram is yielded, which is hexagram number 25, which describes what is known as the unexpected. This is a situation in Chinese, and I may be saying it wrong, it's Wu Wang, and this is a situation that's known as the unexpected. This is not necessarily good, but here's the thing about consulting oracles. It shows you what the situation will yield, and whether or not it is a challenge or an opportunity, either way, you'll know what's coming to you, and it can give you insight into how to handle it. So when I say that it's not necessarily good, that doesn't mean that it's something to avoid. It just means you need to be aware. So hexagram number 25, Wu Wang, describes a situation where someone does something but did not see a minor detail beforehand, and now it is starting to throw everything off. So it is a forewarning in this sense to ensure that all the details have been combed over beforehand, or it can unravel your efforts. Now let's look at them from another angle. Here you see I've shown the energies in terms of feminine and masculine, mother and father, son and daughter, right? As you can see, the first hexagram, number 45, consists of feminine energy. At the base or at the bottom, we have the mature feminine energy, the mother, the matriarchal energy that is managing the group, along with the energy of her youngest daughter influencing it. And when we see this representation, it kind of speaks to how Gen Z has been ignited. However, Wu Wang, or hexagram number 25, shows that the masculine energy represented as the eldest son at the core of it, with the influence of the father or the elder masculine figure, is not the main influence. It's the eldest son. And this is the patriarchy. This energy can undermine the efforts of hexagram number 45 if we're not careful. Now, before I go any further, from my end of things, feminine and masculine energy are like the positive and negative energies on a battery. Both are needed in order for the device to be powered. You understand? So when I say feminine and masculine, it's more like yin and yang, or a positive pole and a negative pole on a magnet, or balance or imbalance. I'm not looking at it through the lens of good or bad, so bear that in mind. Now, going back to what I was saying, think about it. The eldest sons want to have what their fathers enjoyed in the past, and they want to have it for themselves right now. And things have changed, so they are going to feel jaded. And rest assured, they are not hearing the rest of us when we say that their fathers were participating in an inhumane system, patriarchy, that harmed all of us, especially women and children. And you can see this with hexagram number 25. The driving force, or the one at the bottom, is the eldest son. Because, see, the father has already benefited from it, so he's not the main one driving the energy that would undermine the efforts of hexagram number 45, right? So it's the eldest son who's going to be pushing this, or the one that feels like it's his time to get married, it's his time to have children, and he doesn't understand why the women don't want him, and for those that do, why they're demanding so much, in quotes. See, the eldest son, they only, in their mind, all they know is that it is their turn to rule, and they only see us as being rebels, that we're the feminists. And for the men who are over here agreeing with us, that they are nothing more than a bunch of simps. So what the I Ching Oracle is revealing is that the way to handle this situation is to, for instance, by setting up institutions with paid professionals that can cater to the post-childhood development of men. Because we have to understand, these guys have been stunted as a result of patriarchy. You see, there was a time when they were thrown, well, I shouldn't say thrown, they were strongly encouraged to join the military in order for this development to happen. And while in the military, they were in an institution that gave them food, gave them shelter, and a paycheck, along with benefits. And if they stayed with it for 20 years or more, they could retire with a check for life. Yes, veterans have to be willing to do the ultimate sacrifice, and some did. But for a lot of people, and I'm not saying that the military is designed to do this, but what I am saying is that a lot of families encouraged their sons who weren't going to college, weren't immediately going into a trade of sort, to join the military. You understand? So that they could have that stability. However, that is no longer the norm. And you have to remember that many American boys, when they were growing up, the primary responsibility they had revolved basically around school, be it academics or sports. So they only had to do their homework, and once they were done with it, they had the rest of the evening to themselves. They got to play video games, they got to play ball until it was time for dinner to be served to them on a plate, and then afterwards they had to take a bath, put on their pajamas, and then go to sleep. And sometimes they would even fight about taking a bath unless they had their dad around to fuss them out into taking that bath immediately. And because, see, they had mama and even sisters, including their eldest, middle, and youngest sisters. They were the ones who were more often than not cooking the food, doing the laundry, cleaning up after them, and everything. See, when I was growing up, for an example, around the age of 6 or 7, my mother would wake me up earlier than my brother, who's older, for me to start getting ready for the day and to do some chores in the morning, while my brother got to sleep in until, for another 30 minutes before he got awakened. So yes, we may see a grown man who is a chronological adult. However, because of the social norms, religious norms within many subcultures within the U.S., A lot of these guys do not know how to be proper adults beyond clocking into work and earning a check. Many of them are functioning as overgrown children, which is part of the reason why they really want to be with barely legal 18 and 19-year-old girls when they themselves are well within their 30s or even older, is because psychologically many of them are still children. And no, I'm not excusing their behavior. Explanation, not an excuse. So what would need to happen when implementing the Nordic model in the United States, according to the Oracle, is basically efforts to ensure that this group of underdeveloped men are cared for by paid professionals in every way. They are going to moan and groan. They are going to complain and blame the changes around them on the system and the women especially, and whatever else they can blame it on. However, if they are not surrounded in wraparound services that are facilitated by trained professionals who have the capacity to be empathetic to them, they can undermine the entire thing. So what the oracles are saying is, so long as you know that little detail and take the necessary steps to mitigate against it, then implementing the Nordic model will be fine. So anyway, maybe it's all a coincidence, of me handling the coconuts in South Beach in Miami and doing a Sekhmet ritual in the Mojave Desert in California, and now having a woman running for the presidency, turning the campaign on its head, similar to how Sekhmet tends to turn situations on its head. And, Sekhmet is a lion-headed deity, a feline, a cat. And, J.D. Vance's childless cat lady remarks. And Kamala speaking about coconuts. Maybe it's all a coincidence. Or maybe it's a feminine power at work that the patriarchy has tried to keep sealed and vaulted away from being rediscovered. Because once it's rediscovered, they're also afraid of young men realizing women's capabilities and wanting to protect us from being abused by the patriarchs. The Helen of Troy story, or the search for the Holy Chalice or the Holy Grail. I don't know. Maybe it's all a coincidence. Tell me what you think. That's all I have to say for now. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and click on the notifications bell so that you'll know whenever I upload any new comments. Take care until next time.